Thanks so much, Bully. I'm going to start off with a story about the beginning of the year. I was in a club in Cape Town with a bunch of friends. We were dancing, having a good time, when one friend kept jumping out the way and looking a bit uncomfortable. It happened once, it happened twice, it happened a third time, until eventually I crossed the circle to say, what's wrong, what's happening? And then I noticed the two boys standing behind her. She was rattled, she hadn't said anything, and I eventually said, really, what is wrong? She said, no, these two boys behind me keep taking turns touching me, putting their hands up my skirt. So when this happens to someone else, you're brave. You feel much braver than you did if it happened to you. So I approached these boys, still laughing. Listen, she hasn't given any indication that she wants to be pursued. We're just having a good time. Stop touching her inappropriately. I was met with the classic response of contradicting each other, actually, the two boys. One, oh no, it was just a joke. Stop taking everything so seriously. It's just funny. Why are you being so ridiculous? While the other saying, no, it wasn't me, it wasn't us, we didn't touch her. So I said, whatever you thought it was a joke, it's not a joke to us, and she's not enjoying it, we're not enjoying it, please stop. So that was it. I felt chuffed with myself for saying something, because it's not something I would necessarily normally do. And then, not 2 songs later, I feel a hand up my skirt. I whip round to see the same 2 smug-looking boys doing it just to prove that they could. Just to prove that even though I'd set a boundary, I'd said no, I'd made a clear line to say what I thought was acceptable to do to my body and what wasn't, and they did it to say otherwise. I was so angry and felt so helpless looking up at these 2 large boys laughing, and I felt like there was nothing I could do. And why was I feeling like there was nothing I could do when what was happening was definitely wrong and definitely not something that should be happening? I went up to them again, and they were already laughing, waiting for my reaction. So I said, what was unclear about what I said just now? Do you not have mothers, sisters, cousins, girlfriends that you can put in my situation to understand how horrible it is for that to happen to you? The same thing. Oh, you're making a big deal of nothing. You're acting crazy. It was just a joke, whatever it was. So they ended the conversation with, well, what are you going to do about it? So what do you say to that? I felt all the battles lost, all of the people or women that had been in my situation that didn't have anything else to say. So eventually I walked away, felt defeated, and I shrank, and I was so angry that I shrank in the situation. So we ended up looking over our shoulder the rest of the night to locate these awful boys, and went home soon after. The buzz was killed, to say the least. Which leads me to the 3 questions that I keep asking myself when I think about this incident. Why didn't she, my friend, say anything sooner? Why didn't I say anything sooner? And what was the big joke that these boys were laughing at? With a show of hands, who has experienced a situation like this, or know of someone who has experienced a situation like this? Most of the room. I'd like to unpack the layers of social forces that are at play in this story and in all of our stories. The first layer is gender. A male and a female are the 2 main characters of the story. Gender refers to the socially constructed characteristics of women and men, the norms, roles, and relationships of and between groups of the sexes, and that governs the way we behave. It varies from society to society and can be changed. While most people are born either male or female, we are taught these appropriate norms and behaviors, including how we should interact with one another in homes, communities, social settings, and workplaces. The second layer I'd like to touch on, which I've mentioned before, is social conditioning. When I was 10, I went to my good family friend's 9th birthday party, and we were playing Cops and Robbers. It was our favorite game as children. I was the token family friend, so the only girl playing at the time, and once these little boys had noticed I was the only girl, and we were gathering to pick teams, they said, no guys, who's going to get the girl on their team? Nick's not getting Tig. So the birthday boy, who happened to be the strongest and the fastest of the group, backed me. We'd been playing this game for years and knew I actually wasn't that bad for a girl. And he said, no, I booked Tig. The boys looked at him incredulously. Why would you choose a girl on your team for Cops and Robbers? And luckily, I wasn't enough of a deterrent because he was as strong and fast as he was. So the game continued. What had happened in our lives up to that point that these little boys thought I was already that much weaker than them and a year older? So the social conditioning. This is the answer. From an early age, children inherit beliefs from their parents, their family members, TV shows, pop culture, the rest of it, on the ideas of gender. We absorb and we learn. We adopt behaviors that are rewarded or reinforced by acceptance, love, and approval, and stop or hide behaviors that are subject to contempt, ridicule, or punishment. This adjustment happens early in life. By the age of 3, children are favoring toys or clothes that are appropriate for their gender, solidifying their acceptance and understanding of this gender binary. So yes, there are basic behavioral differences and physical differences, but these behavioral differences increase with age because our children's intellectual biases are being exaggerated and intensified by our gendered culture. Children do not inherit intellectual differences, they learn them. They are a result of what we expect a boy or girl to be. So based on this, it is clear that gender matters. Men and women experience the world differently whether we like it or not. Gender definitely colors the way we experience the world. So going back to my earlier scenario, why don't we back ourselves in these situations? Why do we wait to see if it will get worse or really bad before we stand up for ourselves and take an active role in shutting the situation down? By the time we have validated the action or situation that as something it's okay to be upset about, it's often too late. Why does this happen? These social forces, society's understanding of gender and social conditioning, have led us to not trust our gut feelings. We have been socialized into believing that we are these dramatic, over-emotional creatures who struggle to differentiate what was just a joke and what we should or be allowed to take seriously and not take seriously. We'll recognize a potential danger or threat, and we are definitely feeling uncomfortable, and you don't know whether you should say or do something. We have been socialized into believing we cannot trust our guts because we overreact and make a big deal out of nothing, or we're made to feel guilty or silly for bringing it up in the first place. So what does this mean for women living in South Africa? When I think of women in South Africa, my first thought is her safety. I don't believe any women live fearlessly in this country, and although obviously it's much more prevalent in lower income brackets in certain areas, no one is unaffected in one way or another, and a day doesn't go by when you think about it. I'm also not trying to say men live freely with no worries of safety. Of course you do. But as women, our femininity is held against us, and too often our bodies are put at risk of becoming sites of fear and uncertainty and not our own anymore. As women living in South Africa, I believe our gut feeling is an important tool in keeping us safe. I shouldn't be made to feel like I'm overreacting or silly for trusting how I feel in a given situation, whether you agree with me or not. As I've said already in this talk, gender refers to the socially constructed characteristics of women and men, the norms, roles, and relationships we have created that governs how we interact with each other. Therefore, it can be changed. It varies from society to society and can be changed. How can we start changing this? Possibly, the solution is just thinking about it differently. Fani Milola Fagavamila, a Nigerian scholar and activist, says that to her, feminism is acknowledging the complexity and fullness of being a woman. I really like this because it's not comparing women to men, but rather just looking at her in her environment and the complexities and troubles that she's facing. In this way, we are giving her room to navigate the world without diminishing anything she thinks and feels by making comparisons or assumptions on her behalf. We are allowing her to trust her gut. What gender means to us and how it colors our lives can be changed. I would like to encourage everyone here to think differently about this and to think harder about this. We need to feel we are able to trust our gut and be supported by those around us. Decide what is acceptable and what is not in our lives in the face of the social norms or people making us feel otherwise. Culture does not make people. People make culture. If it is true that the full humanity of women is not our culture, then we can and must make it our culture. Thank you. Thankfully,